Hello everyone! Here I would like to discuss with you about my final exam project, and the title that I broke is 5 Feet Apart by Rahel Lipinket, Mickey Daughtry, and Tobias Iconate. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Puspita and my student number is 090. I'm from English Prose 1, Class B. The cover book is so interesting because it draws a lungs. As you can see on the screen, it is a first New York Times bestseller. Next, I would like to tell you about the novel. As I stated before, the title is 5 Feet Apart. The genre is romance and the published date is 20 November 2018. The publisher from Simon and Schuster Books for young readers. The edition is 85 and the page is 288. The language is English. The literary awards from Goodreads Choice Award for Young Adult Fiction in 2019, Hia Norterman. And the photos on the screen is the main characters, which is Stella and Will. Next, why the novel is interesting for me. First, because my final exam project, because the story was good and easy to understand, so I decided. Second is about the genre. I really like melodrama and romance stories. First seems to be one of my favorites. The story makes a reader curious about their symptoms and their love story. Third, I love the storyline. This novel is engaging. It tells about a patient cystic fibrosis, namely Stella and Will, as the main character who actively use social media to cope with her illness and try to live life. This is very helpful for people with the same disease out there who try to fight with cystic fibrosis. This is related to today's situation because the symptoms should keep their physical distance 6 feet away in order to maintain their health. Also, I'm interested because it tells another story of Stella's life, a struggle from family life, friendship, romance, most importantly for her illness. It is very relevant to the lives of teenagers today. The last is about moral value. There are a lot of implied meanings that we can take as a way of life. And next, the issue that is related to the situation is about her disease, namely cystic fibrosis. This disease causes sufferers to have to keep a distance from each other as far as 5 or 6 apart. As with pandemic situation, we must implement social distancing in order to prevent the spread of the virus COVID-19. Cystic fibrosis is an inherited disorder that causes severe damage to the lungs, digestive system, and other organs in the body. Cystic fibrosis affects the cells that produce mucus, sweat, and digestive juice. These secreted fluids are normally thin and slippery. These symptoms are really rare. Although in Indonesia the disease hasn't yet been found, therefore, as humans who have a social spirit, we should help people with CF disease and be more aware of our current health, especially now that there is a COVID-19 pandemic that has paralyzed millions of people in the world. So we really need to be aware of our health as early as possible. Prevent the worst case by having frequent checkups, eating healthy food, exercising, thinking positively, and supporting each other like human beings. To minimize the risk of infection, we must keep social distance from others. Another important thing is our mental health. Currently, many people underestimate about mental health, even though mental health is not only labeled as a crazy people. Mental health really affects our daily life because a good mentality can create a positive mood and mind. Therefore, it can boosting your immune system to fight with CF symptoms or COVID-19 or another symptoms. So stay safe and keep social distancing, guys. Next is about specific formal element that will be my starting point. First is about the theme. The theme that is starting on this novel is about love, life, and death and rebellion. First is about love. The love of Stella feels for Will. Pooh and Abby demonstrate the idea that love in all its forms is an essential part of meaningful life. It tells the experience from Stella and Will that have never been in love before. These teenagers with cystic fibrosis will fall in love during their stays in the same hospital. And the second is about life and death. The novel explores what makes life worth living through the relationship between Stella and Bill, both of whom have cystic fibrosis, a potentially deadly disease. However, their love is complicated because of their disease, which obligates them to keep their distance. They both suffer from cystic fibrosis, and Will is carrier B. cepacia, the type of bacteria that consists of different species of bacteria that are found in the natural environment. Some of these disease species pose risks to the health of persons with cystic fibrosis, so they should keep their distance away when they want to meet each other. And the third is about rebellion. Stella is the type of girl that focuses on her heart and she is not interested in love or having relationship. It contrasts from Will, that he is thinking reality. He opens his mind and shows his perspective on life and love that he wants to spend the rest of his life trying to make the best and most of his short life. So Will convince Stella to rebel against some of the rules imposed on them, believing that living life fully is more important than extending life as long as possible. And the second element is characters. First characters is Stella. Stella is a stereotypical cautious, rule follower character. She makes lists of everything she does, follows everything her nurse tells her exactly, and she even has diagnosed OCD. This portrayal of her OCD actually becomes problematic when she uses it as an excuse to control with treatment regimen. And second is Will. Will is stereotypical rebellious teenage boy. He is an artist, very disorganized and never listens to his nurse. Also wants to live life fully rather than adhere to the rigid guidelines necessitated by their diagnosis. Will is a typical example of round character. And Pooh. Pooh is Stella's best friend is arguably the best character in Five Feet Apart. He is emotionally intelligent and sensitive, but also hilarious. Poe is also a good example of queer representation. His queerness isn't stereotypically, and his personality and role as a character is much deeper than just his sexuality. Abby. Abby is Stella's sister. This character is the thrill-seeking older sister of the protagonist and the hospital staff, namely Bert. A static character is somebody who doesn't go through any major change during the course of the story. A great example of a static character in this novel is Bart, the respiratory therapist at St. Grace Hospital. From start to finish, he cares for the patients enough to be a stickler for the rules. Flat characters are also foil characters defined as those who are not highly developed in this story and don't have much emotional depth include Maya, Camilla, Jason, and Hope. Another staff hospital is Julie. This character is the floor nurse for those with cystic fibrosis at St. Grace Hospital. When the novel begins, the protagonist is surprised to see the character is pregnant. The third element is settings. The settings takes place mostly in the St. Grace Hospital, where Stella and Will have both recently been admitted as patients. Stella has been a patient of St. Grace since she was 6 years old, and the staffs here, including Dr. Hamid and their nurse Barb and Julie, are likely family to her. She refers to the hospital as her home away from home. Stella likes visit the NICU to look at the babies, and over the course of their romance, Stella and Will visit the hospital gyms, pool, and kitchen, where Will's birthday party is held. Though Stella feels comfortable in the hospital because she has stayed there so frequently, it is also full of memories of her. The last element is point of view. This novel uses a first person with two perspective point of view. The story alternates between the different point of view of both Stella and Will, and the narratives equally complement each other. While some readers have argued that the book doesn't really give an entirely accurate depiction of cystic fibrosis from a medical perspective, many agree that it perfectly describes the emotional state of the patient, their thought process, and their coping mechanism. This book is written alternately, like in the first chapter, it is tells about Stella. Then the second chapter is tell about Will, and the three chapter is Stella again, and so on. This approach enables the author to establish a distinct individual perspective for each character and helps the reader differentiate their personalities. Next, about my argumentative judgment. From the topic above about the life of people with cystic fibrosis, it can be stated that we should be aware of the symptoms or another disease, especially nowadays. Pandemic in Indonesia has soared so rapidly with the presence of a new virus variant called Delta and Alpha from India. This kind of virus has a very high transmission rate. Therefore, we as Indonesian citizens must be aware of the implementation of social distancing as implied in this novel. Stella and Will must also maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet apart. With this cystic fibrosis disease, even though it doesn't exist in Indonesia, we must know and support people with cystic fibrosis that we are together fighting for life just like people with COVID-19. We must together hold hands to support and pray for them. Also, the important message in this book is Stella shares her life experience as a cystic fibrosis sufferer by sharing it on her YouTube. This method is update to social media as Stella makes and posts YouTube videos from her hospital room and exchange message with reviewers or with viewers. This method is very interesting because, in my opinion, small things like that can raise the spirit of life for people with the same disease out there. I think that's all that I can give a discussion novel with you. Thank you for watching my video and sorry for bad pronunciation. And a little message for you guys. Stay safe and stay healthy. Keep social distancing.